Ooh. All right, Lisa, if, when you're ready.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Matt Blanchett,
Here.
Ken Cleveland,
Here.
Rosanna Flynn,
Here.
Shannon Hughes Brown, Ken Jackson,
Here.
Larry Messenger, Don Post,
Here.
Jessica Lamb. Here. Heather Jacobs. Here. Ann Cochiola. Here. Then I have, Troy Salvatore.
Here.
Alan Schumann. Here. Jack Hennigan. Here.
It's Miller time.
Sorry.
Mike Berger. Lauren Giammondo. Jack Buttons. Oh, my comments, I'm sorry, Sharon. I apologize.
Okay. Well, we need to start at the left because today's going to be one of those meetings. Okay. 2 hours. All right, agenda. Any comments on the agenda? Any changes anyone wants to make? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thanks, Ken.
Second.
Thanks, John. All in favor of approving the agenda as noted, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay. Agenda approved. Minutes. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes. Yeah. If there's
I
no...
make a motion to approve the minutes from
Thank you,
November
Matt.
2nd.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right. Minutes approved. Public comments. We had one submittal.
We had an email from Carla McLean. She said, "Hello, I had a chance to check out the concepts. I want to be sure that the space in the band room/choir room is enough to accommodate large group rehearsals. In addition, having had music classrooms that are next door to each other, if the walls are not appropriately soundproofed, it is very difficult to teach choir or general music when the band is right next door. The health room will be impacted as well. It is easier to soundproof now than to retrofit. The gym should be close to the athletic fields so that students don't have to walk through the entire building to get to the fields, concepts A and C. In addition, a closed courtyard is a better option for security and safety, like in concept C. However, having special ed rooms have outside access doors could be a problem in terms of students that elope. Concept D, the academic hallway closest to the band room, will be impacted by noise."
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? All right. As far as my update's pretty short today. We did have a town council meeting we went to last week, I believe, yep. The main thing I took out of that was that when we do nail down our building placement and the parental drop-off loop, we're going to need to get town council approval before we can proceed with that design. So they're going to need to approve land that's outside of the fenced area. So it would be good to get an idea of what that timeline should be so that works with your timeline. Meaning if we need to go to them in December at their next town council meeting to get that so you guys can move forward, we should do that. We should plan for that.
I just have one question. Is there a submission a certain number of days before the actual town council meeting, Roseanne?
Yes. Tony, what is it? 4 days?
A week before.
A week before?
Okay.
A week
So
before.
it's not like a month before or anything
No,
like that?
a week
Okay.
before, yeah.
But I would suggest you do that anyways.
Yeah, I
I
was,
would just suggest you do it for the December council meeting.
Right. That's what I think we're trying to do.
I was just wondering, would it just make sense to carte blanche to say, identify all the area to the left? Just to to turn that over to the BOE custody.
Yeah, I think,
To give them maximum flexibility,
Yep.
then we could do.
yeah, I think we should aim to go to town council in their December meeting, which, December, do you know, top? December 14th? December 14th.
There is a minor situation that we're working on, so let me know when you want me to bring it to your attention.
I like to know it sooner than later. Is it the road issue?
It's the land issue.
Can you can tell me. I'm curious now.
I can tell everybody. so-
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Anthony Salvatore, town manager for the town of Cromwell. It came to our attention that there is an agreement with the state of Connecticut for an open space grant that was initiated back in 2003. So I've had staff working on this for the last 2 days. I don't know how many copies I have, but certainly the chair and I thought I made enough, but I guess there's more people than I thought. Yeah.
Who would you like to give it to?
Whoever, maybe they can share, and certainly the recorder. At any rate, back in 2003, the town accepted money from the state of Connecticut, both for recreation and conservation, both at Watrous and Pearson parks. I think we're okay with that 2.8 acres in Watrous Park. As the engineering technician and the engineer looked at as well as the town attorney, I had her review this for me as quickly as possible overnight. So the piece, the back piece from the north side of the road, equal with Grove Road, it appears to be the piece. However, we couldn't find one of the pins in the southwest corner of the property. Let's see here, Grove Road. So the southwest corner of the property, but we believe in it being equal with Grove Road, that we should be all right, but it depends on what kind of improvements you plan on making to Grove Road, if that was to occur. So I can leave you this.
Grove Road's the road above the baseball field, right?
The Grove Road's the road above the baseball
I don't think we're
field.
touching that at all.
So what I'm saying though is the agreement is for what appears to be the entire park, that we can't touch it for other than recreational and conservation purposes. So we were concerned because the school would not fit that criteria. So later this afternoon, bless you, we determined, we think, that the piece that's mentioned in this agreement is the northern piece and not the southern piece. If that's the case, then the 2.8 acres should be accessible. But we want to make sure with regards to the southern piece that that is the case. But I kind of feel about 85–90% confident that this agreement was drawn up as it alludes to the northern piece and does not affect the southern piece. But if it does affect the southern piece, then there are restrictions. There is a way around it. Could make application to the Commissioner of DEEP for an exception, but
So,
that's up to the state.
Tony, just to be clear, when you say the southern end,
Yeah.
that southern end is parallel to Grove Street?
Well,
Like north of the current school property? Or does it extend down south to the left of the school property?
When I talk about southern piece, I'm talking about it in its totality, which would include the school piece and the piece, I'll try as best I can. I tried blowing this up. The northern piece would be what I consider this section here, and then the southern piece would be the piece that encompasses the school and the property outside the fence that's under the control of the town council.
Okay.
This is where you want to come through for an access road possibly, and I'm trying to make sure that that would not violate any restrictions that are on the park.
Yeah.
Is it possible to put it up on put that picture up there and have him articulate it so that all can see it?
Is there a visual
So you
in
have a
the
map.
presentation that's
You know, I'm just looking at the
Oh.
computer.
This is Google Map. Do you have it?
Can we, that image will actually show it to us if we can put that on the monitor. That image is on the screen right now. If we can project that to the screen, that'll show it.
That way he may be able to describe it a little clearer.
Yeah. It sounds like the bottom line is the area we're trying to use with the new school placement may have complications if this paper considers the south end in addition to the north end.
Correct.
But we don't think it includes the south end right now.
I don't think so, and I know you were having a survey done. Have they checked the deeds? Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, so, okay. Okay, now, again, this is, okay, this is Grove Road here. And it appears from the map that we have from, let's see here, 1963, that it refers to this parcel to the north in this document. If that's the case, then this parcel here to the south is not part of it with no restrictions that we found thus far. So that would mean that this parcel over here, the wooded section, should be acceptable for an entrance road into the school as proposed in some of your concepts. The only thing up here is we're trying to determine if any improvements can be made to the road for non-recreational purposes. But right now, as long as there's no restrictions here, it should be all right. But
So the current option is not only to put a road there, but also part of the building itself in that wooded area. On the southern side.
on the southern side,
Yeah.
if there are no restrictions, this might have been, years ago, okay, the high school was built back in the 50s. So, it's kind of hard to determine because I didn't have the other deeds in front of me. If there's no restrictions placed on this parcel here, then it should be all right, but that should be checked. It appears the restriction, as I said, with this grant that was accepted back in 2003, places this restriction, which actually it places a restriction on Pearson and Watrous Park, and it places the restriction on it for 40 years. So, No, since
2003.
2003. Watchers Park talks about the warranty deed that was dated back in '63, and I'm assuming, and I shouldn't, but that's this parcel here. So as long as this parcel is the parcel that's referenced, which I believe it is, then unless there are restrictions, as I stated earlier, with this section, then that should be allowable. But I think that needs to be carefully checked.
Okay. So what steps are left for the check to happen?
The deeds that are on file for this section.
Okay. So your team should have been checking those deeds as well?
I haven't looked at the survey map in a few weeks and looking for any deed information, but we will double check that and then contact the surveyor
Okay.
and find out if he found anything else out.
All right, let's try to clear
We'd
that
love
up
to, we'd
within
love
the
to get a
week.
copy of that legal document, Mr. Salvatore, if I
Do you
could
have
get
the
it.
extras, or I can give them mine? Oh, you,
You give me yours. This is the one I have. Yeah.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
The problem is, I remember back in the '70s, the only reason I caution you to be careful, this has been brought up before. We did do a courtesy check, and we didn't initially find anything based on the federal grant that was picked up back when they improved the park back then. So I'm thinking that this should be all right, but I would be extra cautious and check the deeds.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Can we try to clear that up this week or within next 5 days or so? Okay, thank you. That way I don't have to go into the holiday freaking out.
And the last thing, I'm still waiting. I talked to the town attorney. Are we waiting for anything for you? No, we're good, right?
We're good.
We're good.
We're good.
That's another. How with you?
Okay. Thanks. All right. Thank you, Tony. So just a couple other things I wanted to know. The town council minutes were received today, so Jack, thank you for sending that up to Michelle right away, turning that over. That's good. That was the letter we needed with the resolution to fix the resolutions. There was another email that came through today from OSCGR about some content missing from the grant application. Jack's gonna have a conversation with the state to figure out exactly what's missing, and we'll provide that. Hoping that's not gonna turn into anything, right, Jack? Minor issue, minor bump in the road?
Well, it appears to be minor bump in the road. One of the topics is regarding, the application made no comments on covenants, easements, or restrictions on the land. So, Mr. Salvatore, this information about the 2003 grant is very timely, and hopefully we can clear this up very promptly. We have a deadline of the 28th to get the supplemental information up to the state so that they can move the project forward on the priority list.
I like to do that like by next week if possible. I don't like waiting to the last minute. It makes me nervous.
So this is very, very timely, so thank you.
Okay. And then last thing I just wanted to mention is to thank everyone for submitting all your content early. We are trying to keep this meeting to a 2-hour time box for all of our sanity and well-being. I expect a good portion of the meeting today to talk about the layouts, so getting that info early is definitely going to help expedite that conversation. All right, moving right along. Communications Subcommittee report. Do either of you have something? I think she said there was none for this month, or this week. So Design Subcommittee report, do you have something, Heather?
I do. On Friday, November 11th, members of the design subcommittee participated in a Zoom call with Perkins Eastman, Dr. Macri, Ms. Cochiola, and Ms. McLean. The purpose of the call was to do a more in-depth review of the general design layout and adjacencies, and to get clarity on a few items that were brought up during the workshops on October 20th. Design option 2 was the design option that this call focused on. It was clarified by the school admin that the 3 world language classrooms should be centrally located together, preferably on the first floor, rather than one room per academic neighborhood. Perkins Eastman acknowledged this as a takeaway and will work on some design options to accommodate that need. There was discussion about the hallway lengths, and Perkins Eastman was able to clarify that in the design we reviewed at our last building committee meeting, the longest hallway is the same length as the shortest hallway in the existing school. The size of the fitness center was a point of discussion, and Scott Penny was invited to join us for this part of the discussion. It was clarified that the fitness center is not intended to house a full physical education class, but rather as an additional space to send some students during class time. Because of this, it was thought that the fitness center would be best positioned next to the gym rather than across the hall, with glass windows so that there can be supervision from the main gym. Mr. Penny did say the fitness center would also be utilized by the health teacher for instruction, so that adjacency needs to be acknowledged. There are still size concerns, so Perkins Eastman will work to provide some general layout options as a test fit. And Mr. Penny also requested that the offices be located within the locker rooms rather than adjacent to the locker rooms for supervision purposes. Providing a home for paraprofessionals was discussed as well. It was decided a final design will allow for a place for paraprofessionals to securely store personal belongings. However, there will be no designated rooms for paraprofessionals. It's the district's goal to keep all students incorporated in regular academics as much as possible, and therefore pulling students out of a regular academic classroom should be the exception and not the norm. If the final design includes collaborative spaces within the academic neighborhoods, those spaces can be utilized by a paraprofessional should a student need a break from the classroom. The last was to provide some sample layout options for the nurse guidance admin space, as Ms. Cochiola expressed concerns with all 3 spaces being together in a single location. Perkins Eastman did acknowledge that the current design is merely a placeholder for those spaces, and the separation will be done as we get further along in the design process.
Thank you. All right, Perkins Eastman report. For just time, I would say maybe concentrate on the new concepts. Okay. If we can share the screen. Thank you.
Yep. I can see.
Well, I'm going to be pointing with the laser. So
Oh, sorry.
I don't think you want it in your eyes.
So we just had a great report from Heather on the meeting that we had on Friday. We also received an email over the weekend with additional comments that you'll see addressed in the revised layouts that we're going to be presenting in the building organization concept update. After Mike goes through that, and we have a couple test fits of the fitness space that wasn't included. We just got that done today, and then we have the schedule update and our next steps.
Nice and quick, Joe.
Yep, short and sweet.
Okay, so this is where we left off. We just kept it in a package, just as a reminder. This is the concept A that was voted on 2 weeks ago. And the takeaway from that was we had some homework to go back and take a look at the lengths for the corridors, as Heather had mentioned. And we did not have this graphic last time. I think this is quite helpful for understanding scale. Everyone knows the existing school and how long those corridors are. I think to take note, the shortest corridor in the school is one across the top, which is about 230 feet from end to end, and that's the shortest corridor in the existing school. Up to 345 across the front, which are pretty long corridors. So we understand the sensitivity. It might not have been too easy to tell how long our corridors were without scale. So we did an overlay, and this is in your package. So this gives you a good sense of Main Street, which is not a terribly long Main Street. It's still the same length as your shortest corridor. So we're We're trying to make a really efficient, compact school, and also it shortens the travel distances for the students and the faculty. So with that, we developed a few quick studies of how can we shorten those wings, and we gave some lengths on these as a study. This was the option that the educators really kind of gravitated to. I think this is more easily supervisable. By standing at one end of the corridor, you can basically see the entire length of the corridor without having to turn corners, hiding points, and these options 1 and option 3. Sorry for going quickly. I just want to get to the new scheme. This one was not preferred. Again, you have another corridor, so again, another place for students, another corner. So we just started to look at this option 2, this wing, and then we received some additional feedback from the committee last weekend about possibly relocating the Board of Ed from the front of the building, which we understand, right? It kind of congests the front of the site with 2 front doors at the front of the building. In the previous scheme, I think there's some concerns about visitors going to the Board of Ed, crossing the student path as they arrive. Very, very valid concerns. So I think locating it towards the rear of the site is a really nice move, and it works nice on the plan. And we also learned that you guys would prefer to flip-flop the auditorium and the gymnasium. Some strong relationships between the gymnasium and the cafeteria for after-hours usages. So there's some synergies by having those directly adjacent to each other. So that potentially might be a good move. And we also learned from the educators that the world language classrooms do not belong separated within those academic wings. So we pulled 3 classrooms out, and we're trying to find a home. So quickly we tried to get a draft out to you guys on Monday, but since then I think we've developed a better solution that works I think pretty nicely, and I think I'll kind of jump to that one if you don't mind. We're calling it Concept 3, and this one actually, if you notice on the upper left-hand corner of all these options, this is the school gross square foot number. And I think our target is 87.7, so this is within striking distance, so we feel pretty good about that. And then the Board of Ed will be subdivided, and that will kind of follow that with its own bottom line square footage wise. So this one does locate the Board of Ed in the back. We're engaging it into the building a little bit nicer. It doesn't stick pretty far out there. I think it'll take its own a different shape as we start to lay it out, and we're starting to look at that right now. This does bring the auditorium and the stage and your choral and band up to the front of the school, which I think there's some nice opportunities there. It's really isolating the choral and band rooms away from the rest of the school, so acoustically, I think it's in a really, really good spot. Admin, guidance, and nurse, and yes, we're currently working on laying those out as well, so we'll be sharing those as those are developed. That's still in the front of the school. The length of Main Street is still the 230 feet distance. We moved art right up front. I think it's a great location. As you walk into the school, it's great opportunities for art on display and displaying the kids' work. Media Center, you notice kind of a notch taken out here. I think this is a really nice opportunity. I think Ken mentioned last time, the concern about natural light, into that main corridor. So it's a really nice opportunity to bring natural light directly into the Main Street, also for views and possibly a possible connection out to the space. What it also does, gives another exterior wall for the Media Center. So now you can have windows and glazing on 2 corners. It can be a really, really fantastic space. We still have the relationship next to robotics and coding, and then those world language classrooms are right off of Main Street and located together in a group. So we didn't have time to share these with the educators, but I think this kind of checks all the boxes. We hope for adjacencies and where they want to be off of Main Street. And then your academic neighborhoods, you do have daylight and a little break-it area located here. And from this red dot down, it would be a pair of doors, and this is really your academic neighborhood. So this length, is still right around 200 feet, but your perceived length actually gets shorter. Once you enter into your neighborhood, it's only about 130 feet or so. And you see this remains at 230 feet, and these corridors are very, very manageable. The second floor, again, sits just right over here, so it's a very limited, incredibly efficient second floor to the building. These areas that Heather was talking about, those circle areas within that breakout space, that collaboration zone, those are the spaces that Heather mentioned that the paraprofessionals would love to use. Instead of giving them a dedicated extra square footage in a room, they can actually really use those quarter spaces and encourage the educators to push the students back in after they get the assistance that they need. We did speak with Mr. Penny about the fitness room. So we have a couple diagrams in a second, but located directly off the gymnasium for supervision during class. The students can go into this room, and the teacher can look through the glass, keep the door open, and have eyes on the students. Also, there's a direct adjacency to the health classroom, which is really nice. This door right here, I guess the public comment about having the gym close to the fields, is a good one. By moving the gym further up, the students are actually closer to the athletic fields. They're centrally located in the school, and the changing rooms are directly adjacent to the offices now, integrated, so that they can change and head straight out to the fields without crossing any traffic. Any kind of questions or comments as we're going? Sure, Ken.
So, why do we have the locker rooms across the hallway? Why wouldn't they just be connected to the gymnasium?
They could be. That's one of an option. We could jam this up here and run a corridor down along between the auditorium. And I think there's a nice connection here with this stage storage directly connected to the stage. We've done it both ways.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
That was one of my initial concerns with this layout. Is I like the gym being in the middle and the auditorium, but I feel like some of the gym spaces should be attached to the gym, and the hallway down lower against the auditorium. Just looking, Rosanna and I were just watching them do some rehearsal today for the play they're working on, and you have kids running from back of the house and around, and so now for them to take that extra length, like there's a volleyball game right now, right? So you have the gym full of people watching volleyball, and you have something in the auditorium, and now you have kids like trying to make that big loop, which is, I just feel like it might be better to
Certainly.
add that space there, and like Ken said, put the locker rooms and stuff attached to the actual gym.
Okay. I think.
But is there a concern about the auditorium storage not being connected?
Yeah.
Connected to it.
Yeah, you definitely need auditorium storage connected to it.
It's connected. It could be across the hall. We've done it both ways. As long as there's pairs of doors on either side, so you have a straight shot right across the hallway, bringing any stage sets or supplies.
Yeah.
I think that's
true. If they have a hallway there that they have accessible, then, right?
Right, yeah, I mean,
As long as it's facing the auditorium.
It'll be next to it, it's just not going to be physically touching the auditorium.
About 8 feet away. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that those are great suggestions. I think that's kind of an easy solution to this.
Would that mean we'd move the health room against the gym also? Probably.
Yeah. We'll take a look at it.
Right.
We'll come up with a.
I really like the location for those world language classrooms.
Okay.
I think that flows well with the other common classroom areas. I'm not visualizing that little notch at the bottom. I'm trying to.
Yep. And we'll get there. These still, we're still early in the design, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
So we're going to fine tune and finesse these shapes.
It almost feels like a security issue for some reason. I don't know. Like just having it being, open. But I have to process what that looks like.
I do like the art room there.
Yeah.
In the corner as opposed to walking into restrooms.
Yeah.
Right.
On that corner.
We agree.
So I really do like that. That Board of Ed still has, it just feels like it's just plopped on and doesn't fit. And I don't have a better idea. But it just feels kind of
unless
like an afterthought.
And you don't want to put it to the back end of the gym either.
That's what I was wondering, if you just kind of nestle it right in between there, in the middle.
Like the back of the
Behind
gym?
the gym, yeah. Kind of.
Yeah. So let me click the next. We'll show you how it fits in on the site. Maybe we should have reviewed this first. Previously I was sitting up here, and there's some concerns, obviously, just about the mixing of the two uses, right? So I think pushing it towards the rear of the site gives its own identity, far away from the front door. Also gives nice supervision, presence on the back of the site, right, passively. It works actually quite nicely, and we'll work with Mike Segan's team on this, utilizing the bus loop assuming that the buses can queue up over here. Idling buses will stop along this axis only, and visitors and cars will utilize this road, in and out, and then pull into this parking lot and out and access the Board of Ed from this location. Pulling this, farther down, we'll have to take a look at the length of the bus loop and the number of parking spaces that we can accomplish. Putting it here, I think has nice exposure, nice way to end the building. And I know it was probably hard to visualize it because it's just a block right now. But it'll have its own identity, own architecture, which ties into the building. So let me go back to this plan here.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for us to visualize on a 2D print, right? Like, you almost need to see some kind of 3D, this is what it'll look like.
Yep, that's the process. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So, I like that I like what you did with the art room and having the glass just to the north of it. I think it gives that outdoor learning space a bit more purpose. It felt like, in some of the previous schemes, it just felt like it was no man's land, and maybe now you can have a connection to it off the hallway.
Yeah.
I'm still a little, like Heather, a little confused with the Board of Ed placement. I think it gives some good security to the bus loop, but it does feel, when you get into blocking this thing out three-dimensionally, I think you'll figure out what that really needs to be.
Yep.
I do like, though, that at least provides some cover to receiving, something that could be pretty ugly. But overall, I think it's just pretty good. I like the improvements that you made.
Great. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Can you just,
I guess
yeah.
I go back to the microphone.
Yes, thank you.
I was just wondering, when I looked at this concept, if there was possibly a way, instead of having the service road go wrap all the way around, if the service road could somehow come in from the bus loop.
Right here.
It saves money, number one, and gets the traffic quicker off the park road. The other thing, the little notch I noticed earlier today, and isn't that going to be kind of costly? Or it has to add more expense to the building just to put that notch in?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and we're trying to create a great educational space, and daylighting and views, and this is really the academic hub of the school. It's underscored in the ed spec, the mission of the educators, that we want to create a fantastic space in there. So we're picking our moments. There aren't many flashy moments in the school. There's not a lot of wasted space. So I think if we're going to make a special moment, that's the place to do it.
I'm thinking back to when we went and saw Colchester. And I remember walking down the hallway and them having like the daylight in windows. And I know it won't be as big as what we have here, but I remember just thinking like walking through and like having a big spot of daylight was like refreshing.
Yeah.
Again, I have to see
that corridor is 230 feet long, and now you've got 100 feet of it that's only going to have daylight on the north side. Before it was 230 feet, and we may have had some skylights or something. This is a huge improvement.
You could still have skylights though over the innovation areas, right?
You could, but you want to have views out to nature, and having natural light in a space, it improves everything.
and that's exactly
But
I
to
agree.
Tony's point, one thing that that you always have to look out for is when you're adding extra area to a building envelope. This notch, it adds a little extra area to the building envelope, but does it really add that much? At some point, that would have been, you have to have glass on the art room, right? So you would have had to do something there to get windows on the art room.
Yeah.
I think you're really just taking that window and you're pushing it further to the east. You might be adding one wall of building envelope to this scheme. I think it's worth it.
Okay. Any other questions? I think we'll quickly take a look at the fitness center. Joe, you want to talk to these, or?
So there are some questions about what could realistically fit in a 400 square foot fitness center. So we did 3 test fits just, to see what could fit and how many students could fit there in a class. So each of these fit about approximately 8 students each. So the test fit one on the left is maximizes the stretching area to the north. And then just below that, there'll be a free weight area and then cardio machines on the bottom. So there's a bike, elliptical, and treadmill. And, also the window placement that's shown here obviously would be, developed in the door placement as well as the program develops. And the second option, the free weights area is a little bit bigger to the north. Stretching centralized there, a little bit smaller than the first option, and cardio along the south. And the third option maximizes the cardio equipment. So 2 of everything on the left, smaller free weight area and smaller stretching area. So none of these are a finalized option, but just to give you an idea that about 8 students could fit in a variety of options.
That's really helpful. It's not a big space. And Mrs. Cocciola, I think we need to provide that feedback to the fitness teacher. He did, but he was here, let me read what he wrote.
Identify that it wasn't 20 by 20 space, and he did give all the reasons why that space would still work as a fitness center.
Let me find the email.
And that's his diagram, yeah, he drew up his own diagram.
So, his diagram is similar to option 3. Except he has, what does this say? He has 2 walls. He's got 2 walls of exercise. He's got exercise balls, bikes, 3 treadmills. I mean, this is using, right? And he's using like just what he envisions would fit in there. Yeah, he's just not going to get what he thinks he's going to get in this room.
And he may not get a 20 by 20 square either.
No.
Like, I think that's a piece.
Share this with
Yeah, we need to share that with him.
He realizes what
So we
he
can
can
have
get
a
in there.
scale drawn.
Yeah, he doesn't to be in here.
I mean, I know he asked for 400 square feet, but depending on the layout of the school,
Right.
it may not be a square. I think
Right.
it
This
could
is
be a long
405
rectangle.
square feet, what we're showing here.
Right, so I just want to make sure he knows he's not necessarily getting a 20 by 20 square.
Yeah. Right.
Why he's asking.
Yeah. So I think we need to have that discussion again with him, and then, bring these schematics so he sees what he's working with. And if you only have 8 students, and you have a class of 24 kids, that's a third of the classroom utilizing it at once. I'm not sure if that's,
They would do stations, as he explained, something that they would run station, they wouldn't necessarily be in there the entire time, they would do different skills, and that's again how he explained
Yeah.
how they would utilize that.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why he wanted this room adjacent to the gymnasium with a window, so that he could have part of the class in the gym and part of the class in this particular space, learning how to use the machines. That's the way it was explained to us.
okay. Well, I will forward this email to the committee. You guys can read this later. in full detail. Okay.
So we're midway through November. We're looking at about 5.5 more weeks left until we issue our schematic design package. We have a few more meetings to have. Our consultants are asking for meetings with the performing arts and tech and security and IT and AV. So we'll be scheduling those in the next week and moving to finalize the package right before the holidays.
So how much massaging's allowed after you finalize the package? Meaning, let's say we wanted to have better ideas of the BOE layout, for example. I'm not saying we do, but let's just say, or we want to see what the hallway next to the auditorium looks like. How much movement are we allowed once we kind of settle on a final layout?
So for design, that would be more of a design development. So we'll have layouts for the Board of Ed and admin, nurse, guidance. That'll all be part of the schematic design process. But during
But not
design
like in the blob, I mean like the blob shape.
Yes. So, Joe, do you want to weigh in a little bit more on that, or?
I guess we'll be flexible, Rosanna. I mean, obviously, this is a very important project, and we want to make sure that everybody's been heard and that the plan is responsive. And I think from tonight's meeting, you can say that we listened very, very carefully and, respond accordingly, because it is your building, it's not our building.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that your needs are satisfied and that we're taking care of the design as you see it. And by the way, the Board of Ed and the nurse and the administration, there's a lot of work that has to be done there. And I think what will happen is the Board of Ed itself will shape to match the architecture and become more integrated. Right now, it's kind of like a block that's tacked on, and I don't think that is what the ultimate architecture is going to look like.
Okay.
So just have patience with us. We're just not
Right.
there yet.
Right.
Okay?
So this is just kind of laying out where the different areas are going to lay, but
Yeah, right.
molding them is going to
Well,
happen over time.
Yes, it's not exactly architecture yet.
Yeah,
It's-
the relationships that we talked about tonight are very, very important because they do set the stage for massing and, placement of structure, walls, things like that. And so those are very, very important decisions that you guys are making and allowing us to proceed.
And then for the drop-offs, do we need to make any decisions on that? I mean, it sounds like we're going to have to use that Herbert Porter Road based on the visibility off of Gear Street. This is the new design, right? A new concept?
Yeah. So we're still studying the traffic for that area to see if we need to use that. But I think everybody's leaning more towards not having to use that. As
Not
an
using what? I'm
the
sorry.
Park Road.
Not using it?
We don't think you're going to need that.
Hopefully utilize this as your
Correct.
entrance.
And then using possible, the bus loop as possible service access as well, so we could double up on that. So there's pros and cons to each, and we're still
Working
looking into
through it?
those, yes.
Okay.
Because we'll also be looking at, to double up on emergency access as well, because we'd like to provide emergency access around the building, get open perimeter, and increase the allowable area for code reasons as well. So we could double up on that as well. So we try to double use
Right.
roads and spaces and to get the maximum out of every square inch.
Okay. Anyone have any other comments or questions?
I like the service coming off the bus loop.
Mhm.
I envision that the rear one, because parents already can't follow rules, and that's going to become where they sneak in and drop off or pick up, and it creates a giant mess in back. And a security issue. Because they already, I'm baffled by the behavior of parents at drop off.
That's where Ann kicks in.
I like the art room being on that corner because I think that resolves one of the issues we had about what you see when you walk in, and we can really spruce that up and look really nice, seeing all the artwork and everything as one of your first things you look into. One of the comments that Shannon's not here today, but she wanted to make sure that the all-inclusive restrooms are integrated near the regular restrooms.
Yes.
As opposed to like
Yep. And
set apart.
Yep. And every location that we have a group restroom, there is one directly adjacent in the wings, also off Main Street, and also with the changing rooms as well. Everything is directly adjacent.
Okay.
Only I comment, I'm all for natural lighting on a building. I think it's wonderful. But as running facilities for 35 years in my career, I hate skylights.
Oh, yeah.
They are a maintenance nightmare. You know, it's a suggestion like, and I don't know if it's cost prohibitive, along Main Street, if you have a section of vertical wall panels.
Yes.
With a little bit of a pitched roof.
That's
You get great lighting in it.
Clear story. That's exactly what we're looking at, is bringing some clear story lights. Yes. Vertical glass, nothing. Yes, we agree.
The auditorium storage, the right size per the ed spec, which should be 600 square foot. I think one of the images made it look like it was smaller than the fitness room. So it should be 600 square feet. Right now, it looks really tiny on here.
Auditorium.
Looks like it's 100 square feet.
Yeah, it's included in, yeah.
So we just want to make sure that it's the right size. So if the fitness area is 400, the storage room should be bigger than that.
Okay. We'll confirm. We'll double check.
Okay.
Make sure that.
Yeah, just pictorially it looks smaller.
Yeah, I think we agree. So we'll make sure it's correct.
Question about the BOE. I don't think this is possible, but could the BOE be 2 stories to reduce kind of its footprint? That will add a lot of cost. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a lot of cost, so it's probably not an option. Yeah, I think we addressed everything else.
The only thing I'd add is if you could go to the slide with the zoomed out view. Is it the next slide? Yeah. Would the expectation be that the Board of Ed, I guess, parking would be inside the blue parking loop box?
No, in this location here, and again, this is a very high-level diagram. Mike Segan, our landscape guys, need to take a look at, and once it finds its home, they'll come up with a creative solution that works nicely. But the idea that there's an area in here, not saying this whole area, but a portion of this area in here would be utilized for parking.
Oh, okay. So they would enter by the bus loop, I guess, similar to
correct. Well,
maybe today.
Yes.
Or something. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think there was only another question on the lactation room.
Oh, right. That's probably gonna be the nurse's suite, I'm guessing, lactation room?
That's what I would guess, but.
Yeah, just want to confirm that. I mean, you guys haven't detailed out that space yet, but.
We haven't laid out the suites yet.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Any other comments?
When is our next meeting?
2 weeks.
30th, I believe.
30th?
If you're doing every 2 weeks.
Yep.
We have a special meeting next week?
Yeah, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, we have a special meeting.
That was
But our
tied
next
to the
meeting-
Oh, that was
interviews.
canceled. Yeah, we don't know. You
Our
don't,
next
you
meeting
don't know
with
that yet.
Perkins Eastman is in 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
I think you can gather that people are struggling to understand what this is going to look like 3-dimensionally. Can we get some blocking diagrams in 2 weeks?
Yes, we can. I think we've made good progress. I think there've been some suggestions and understanding of programmatic adjacencies that have kept some boxes moving around, which is normal and natural, as you know, that there's a process, where, and once it settles in, it starts to move quicker, much quicker, and we start to put some architecture to this thing, so, yes.
I do appreciate all your last-minute work to try
Oh, no, we appreciate that.
resolve all our many issues.
It's a complicated building, yeah.
All right. Any other comments on the layout? I think we're okay with proceeding with this for now. Don't know if we need to vote on it. Do we need to vote on it? No. Okay. I think we're good. Keep going. Yeah, schedule.
So next steps, I guess we have approval to move forward with the design as from the last time, and we've just made iterations and swapped some spaces around. So our next step is develop massing and elevations. We'll continue discussions with the educators and the design subcommittee. Meeting with stakeholders, so we'll have to schedule that and get some information out. I have a couple of questionnaires to forward. I guess I should send that to Dr. Macri's office to get to the educators.
So,
To Lisa?
just
Okay.
make sure you copy me on all that stuff, so I'm in the loop, thank you.
And we need to set a project update presentation with the community, so I think that's something that we would like your input on, and when that would be best to do, probably after Thanksgiving at this point,
Yeah,
early December.
Could the communications subcommittee help with that?
Yeah, I think we were planning on it. We had tentatively put a date on the calendar, but we were just waiting to find out when we'd have something to respond to, so we
Okay.
can work on that.
Okay, good.
And then the last thing I had for next steps as a kind of short look ahead would be the meeting with OSC GNR, which is at the end of schematic design, which Jack and his team will be setting up.
Okay. All right, very good. Just a note, we're probably not going to have a construction manager set up in the time frame we had originally thought. We're a little delayed getting stuff out, so just something to note. We can talk more about that when we talk about scheduling. Where am I? Anything else from your team? Okay, good. Arcadis. I know we have to approve stuff tonight.
Now, this will be pretty quick because we're going to do invoices separately, but budget summary, not a lot of financial activity to date. As you see, this will be a consolidated page for this presentation since there wasn't much to report on. Ordinarily, the Board of Ed and middle school projects will be on their own slide with comments as to what actually transpired in the last month. The only expenses paid to date are going against the middle school, and that's the portion of the pre-referendum bill that was charged against the project so far. So otherwise, no other invoices processed so far. We do have encumbrances for the PM and the architect, which are reflected in the encumbrance column. Encumbrance balance is how much is left of those committed contracts, which is obviously the majority of the commitment. The financial process at last meeting when Emily presented the steps in handling your process. There were some comments received. I believe you've all seen this with the updated version with any of the changes that you requested now highlighted. And I don't think we need to click through all of those particular items. You've had the chance to preview it. But the intent is to use this updated version as the template moving forward, and as long as we obtain your blessing on process tonight, we'll move into the invoices and have the documents prepared for Rosanna to sign off in order to get them paid. Would you want to jump forward to do the invoices presently, or
Yep, we can do that.
come back and do that? Okay. I don't know about you, but I can't focus on that. A little on the fuzzy side. The only two invoices in the package are the two Arcadis invoices for September and October. $17,000 total between the two. The invoices are broken down such that we have independent allocations per project, a very small percentage towards the Board of Ed as a financial portion, and the majority going against the middle school. So you'll see a format like this on all the invoices where everything is itemized by each of the phases that our services are broken down to. Similarly, when Perkins Eastman's invoices are up there, they'll be broken down by phases of design and the various levels. And it'll also be split into two categories: charges for middle school, charges for the Board of Ed space. And as we get into other consultants, we'll be expecting them to break down their services likewise to keep the accounting straight. And then the actual invoices is back up, and again, for the second month of the effort. So total invoice presentation tonight, two invoices to Arcadis totaling $17,000.
And Arcadis charges level of effort, is that how the percentage is broken down?
Our proposal was based on phases of, the pre-design or pre-construction, construction phase, FF&E closeout. So it's based on the number of months schedule for each of those phases, and then broken down as monthly amounts.
So if the design phase extends?
It depends. If it's a brief extension, then, we'll take it in stride. If it's, if the project goes sideways and we spend 6 extra months in design, then that's a conversation.
Yeah, okay.
With regard, Jack, to the invoicing for architect and yourself, is that going to be based on a square footage proration of Board of Ed versus middle school?
What we've done in projects where we have dual project numbers, two different scopes, that two different grants, we typically do it based on the dollar value, on a percentage of, if the Board of Ed offices, say, is 5% of the total value of the aggregate project, then we're allocating 5% of our costs against that project. That's our recommendation to Perkins and the other consultants as well. It's simpler than the square footage because it's, again, at the end of the day, our friends in the grant office are all about the shekels. So if we do it on a basis of the percent of cost and allocate our costs accordingly, then it's pretty straightforward.
It also provides for consistency for all the consultants, that
Yes.
they're all on the same page with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to approve the process first before we can actually approve the invoices. So, Sharon, did you review and you're okay with it? Okay, anyone else have any other comments on the process? It looks like they put all the changes we requested with identifying who's responsible for each of these steps, so I'm okay with that. So if there's no other discussion, I'll take a motion to approve the financial reporting process.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you. Now for the invoices. Any discussion on the invoices? I'll take a motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. No abstentions, okay. Invoices approved. Now, do I have to physically sign something?
I have got a whole folder full of things for you to sign,
Yay for me.
so it'll be quick. No, I think there's only 3 or 4 tabs for you
Okay.
to sign. But we'll get-
Purple funnel once construction starts.
Yep. Is Mrs. Coachella still here? Or she take off? Oh, she left. All right. So we had an agenda item to have her talk about the drop off, but she left. So we'll.
Well, don't cut me off yet.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, you still have more. I'm sorry.
We still have more. Yeah, we can kill the projector, though, thank you. Item A, under our item, revised review status of the information request from OSCGR. There were some questions that came up based on a document called the SCG 053. It deals with the site characteristics, and it's a component of your grant application. There are some questions regarding, who check boxes that they're asking that we go back and check or provide supplemental information for. And then some information on the environmental Phase 1 report that was part of the application. They've got a couple of questions they don't define here. So I have a call to place tomorrow with the individual at OSCGR to get better definition on that. But the information tonight about the, possible restrictions on the land and just exactly what land we're using will feed into answering, the second of these 5 bullets that they provided. So again, that is due by the 28th, and our goal is to get it out next week. Part of dealing with things such as this process with the grant application and other steps, there's a guidance document that's issued by OSCGR, clarifications to their construction policies, which in discussing with Rosanna earlier, seems like there may be some opportunities to ask some questions as to just how the grant application was put together, especially when it concerns the reimbursement rate for the Board of Ed space. It's appearing that there may have been an older version of this document that was issued under the directorship of He Who Shall Not Be Named, which said things that were not supported by statute. And if that is in fact the format in which your grant application was submitted, there may be some differing expectations from what the town thought they were going to get as to what the state is actually going to provide as far as reimbursement.
So just to be clear, we were told that we would get, if the buildings were attached, we would get the full reimbursement rate. But this form, which was issued last year, states that you only get, very clearly, 1/2 of the eligible percentage, regardless if the school is attached or not attached. So another thing that Jack and I were chatting about was the fact that there may be an opportunity, seeing that the renovated's new estimate for the expensive than a build new. Total renovation cost was more expensive. Build new. That will have to go to the state and let them know that.
Yeah, I will go back to your referendum level documents and verify, because that was included in what we were sent with the RFP. So I'll do some study on that and then dig into the application itself and just compare and contrast. The understanding we had, and again, we didn't put the application in, but what we were hearing about the application was that you were taking the 10% reimbursement hit because you were building new of choice rather than because it was clearly the cheaper option. If it is clearly the cheaper option, then we definitely want to advocate for you getting a meeting with the state to look at the 2 scenarios and the way the statute is written. If you can show that building new makes better financial sense than renovating, then you should get the full district reimbursement rate, not X minus 10%. So if you were creating an extra facility, an additional facility you never had before, or if it was cheaper to renovate, but because of functional reasons you were choosing to build new anyway, then you would take that 10% reduction. So there's a couple of things that we want to clarify within the next week or so, because this November 28th deadline feeds into the date when the department provides the priority list, which includes a calculation of how much the state is on the hook for financially to both the governor's office and eventually to the legislature. So we've got a narrow window of time to refocus the attention. If in fact you are deserving of that 10%, we don't want you to get cheated out of that.
And do we need to let them know now about the waiver we want to submit for the auditorium space waiver?
Believe we may have touched on that earlier, but I think I can reinforce that in the calls that I'll be having with them this week.
Okay.
So do you have all the information that you need to do this assessment?
I'll be able to check it tomorrow,
Okay.
and then I can reach out and, I know that the full package is on record, so we can always get access to that.
Okay, thanks.
And is it expected that they would have had all these issues with the grant proposal, all the other side issues? Like, or did we just miss something big when we submitted it? Was it improperly submitted, or?
There seems to be one form that was missed, which sometimes happens, and then just some clarifications on some of the data that was given. And again, until I speak to the reviewer about that, the comments regarding the Phase 1 environmental analysis, I won't know just quite. It's just a couple of majors and a couple of minors. Well, it doesn't say what they are.
Right.
Is it a period or a comma missing, or is it, I need a 15-page, supplement? So we'll find that out hopefully tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
So I can just clarify, so it sounds like maybe two new pieces of information. One which would be negative to the town would be central office, regardless of being attached or not, would only be reimbursed at half of the
district rate.
Half the district rate.
Yeah.
And then the potentially positive news for us could be if we can prove that the build new option was actually the more cost-effective, cheaper option, that we would not take that 10% haircut on the entirety of the project.
Correct.
So, if both of those were to be true, then on the net, we'd be in a more favorable position.
Yeah, a 10% bump on 55 million is more than going to compensate for a loss of
20%.
a part of 2-point-some-odd million dollars. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay. So we're all the way down new business. Do we want any further discussion on the fitness center space and use? Anyone else want to add anything?
One is Scott sees what he can fit in there, because by his drawing, I don't think he realizes 400 square feet, so he needs to see that.
Yeah. And you're going to send us those layouts? Yeah, okay. All right. Then we're going to go into executive session at this point, so our guests can leave. We will invite So, it was supposed to be next week, but we had a little delay getting the RFPs out. And we didn't think that 2 weeks was enough time to get the firms to pull their RFPs together, and we don't want to rush them. So, and then Sharon's on vacation, so they decided, really, just to move it to December. And then, so the impact, and Jack, you correct me if I'm wrong, is by the time we do the interviews and select them and get the contracts, we're looking at like January before they really are kicked off. That's after the timeline that Perkins and even Arcadis would need to put those estimates together. So the original idea was we'd have these schematics, the construction manager would look at the schematics, provide their input, feedback on like, yay, nay, this is what you should do a little different, whatever. And then they would take those schematics to compile the new estimates. So we're not going to have that feedback from them. It's without their input, is what the impact of this is. If we waited to get them on board, to get those estimates, that potentially could mean that you're putting like Perkins on hold for the design process, and then they're wasting 3 weeks just waiting around, which we don't want them to do either. So,
In your project management scope, you asked us to provide estimates. So now you'll have 3 sources of estimating: the architect's estimator, the CM, and from us. So without having the CM on board for schematics, you'll still have 2 that can be compared and contrasted. So we can still do the study, we can still do the reconciliation. What you'll be missing is, the third voice in that scenario. And typically, in our documents, we articulate that we're looking for that estimate from the CM, but we can have them listed as a deduct alternate in their proposal, figuring that we're probably not going to be able to make use of it anyway, so we'll take that money back. Or we can do an addendum that just says, don't bother with schematics because we know you're not going to be here yet. So that's subtle wording we can put into an addendum. But you will have 2 estimates to compare, ours as well as Perkins, and so that it will be a productive step. You will have information that tells you, finger in the wind, whether in the right direction or not financially, with the scope that's depicted, which is going to be, fairly light. It's basically square foot costing at this level of development. You're not going to get, really detailed estimates out of a schematic. So you're really not missing as much as, you might be concerned you are by not having the CM at the table at that particular juncture.
Is there anything that is there any risk to the grant process if we don't have 3 estimates?
No.
Okay.
No, we will, typically we only have 2, that the architects, some clients only want 1. They only ask the CM for their estimate. Our protocol is always to expect one from the architect, and then we let the CM and the architect, reconcile, make sure they're both looking at the same project the same way.
there's nothing preventing the CM to doing their estimate after they're on board, though, even though it's after the fact, right?
In theory, they could do that. We really haven't found, we've had a situation like that in the past, where they've come on, say, the following month after we've had those estimates, and we found that there really isn't value in it. So I think I'd rather capture that value and turn it back to you
Okay.
than to have it,
Yeah.
be kind of a wasted effort.
And then so that's the schematic design estimate?
Yeah.
And then there's what, an even more binding one?
We do another one at the end of design development.
Okay.
We ask for one at 50% of CDs, and then at basically 95% CDs before
Okay.
we go out to bid.
So I'm just wondering, what are we really losing by not having the CM as a third estimate at the schematic design stage? Is this some...
Again, this is the first time
Additional data
I've been
point.
asked to provide the third estimate, because usually it's architect and CM. This is the first time that we've done a third for a school project in quite some time. So the fact that you'll still have 2, I think you're covered. You'll get your gut check.
You're still getting 2 views of the same project.
So I'm just saying, it's a pulse check. It's not setting us on a course of action that decisions have to be made.
If it came in, it says, if our budget says we've got, I'll make up a number, $45 million for construction, and we come in at $50 million for construction, we know that we have to dial things back in design development and, and trim the costs. That's really the order of magnitude benefit of this early schematic estimate.
But then we could have an ability to adjust if the
Yes.
schematic design estimate for some reason was grossly off. And we do design development with that in mind, then we come up for air, and then we get a more refined estimate. We can say, okay, no, we overshot, and we can continue to. Okay.
Yeah, so you can make adjustments before you've invested so much time in design that it takes a long time to go back and undo what you've done.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion on that?
Just,
What do we want to do with the Thursday, December 8th then?
Yes, we don't need to vote on the interview date, we just need to vote to have a special meeting. So remove the November 21st special meeting and move it to December 8th.
Okay. So what are we going to do with that tour?
We'll have to do the special meeting after the tour.
Okay.
Maybe right afterwards? That way, 3 to 5?
3:30, I think. it was,
3:30?
3:30. I
If it's
can't
in
make-
North Haven, which is like half hour away.
I can't make that tour anyway, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm in Maryland on that day.
I'll probably be able to make it. So the interviews are going to happen on December 6th?
Yep.
Is that right? All right, and then on December 8th will be the special meeting. Is there a separate selection committee is going to meet separately, or are they going to do that the same night as the interviews? Because we did have
They're going to meet at the same night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Shannon asked if we propose a resolution to cancel the 11/22 special meeting, and
11/21 or 22?
22.
11/22, okay.
and propose the new dates of December 6th for the interviews and December 8th for the final selection with the whole committee.
Okay. We don't need to approve the December 6th interview dates.
Okay.
That's your thing.
I'm just tracking it on my calendar.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll take a motion to to cancel the November 22nd special meeting and add the December 8th special meeting for the construction manager finalist
So
discussion.
move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay.
And then 11:30, you still have a regular building.
Yes. Now I'll take a motion to go into executive session with Sharon and Jack to discuss the commissioning agent finalists.
So moved again.
answer won't go out unless I double check with the selection committee.
Okay.
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 Let
So,
me know when
yeah,
you're
so as
ready.
soon as we have the location confirmed on the interviews, I'll send out an addendum moving the date.
Okay.
I may actually let them know you can actually sleep tomorrow night because it's not due when you thought it was due.
Okay.
And tell them
Are you going
to
to
follow.
move the date the RFPs are due in town hall, or are you going to leave it that same date?
I think we can split the difference.
Okay.
Because again, we're not going to open the envelopes, well, you're not going to see what's in the envelopes. I'd like to look at it and, do the whole, other than this wrinkle about the town rule that if you don't, for some reason you don't show up, we don't look at your number.
Well, it was the selection.
I think that was our choice.
Choice.
Oh.
Yeah.
To just,
Roll them out.
to
So we're
just-
back. Everyone now, okay. All right, we went at 8:32, okay. So I'll take a motion to approve the finalists, final selection for the commissioning agent
you need,
as identified in our executive session.
yeah, but you need, for the record, for the auditors, you need to say who it is.
Oh,
And if we know the fee, then we should announce the fee as part of that motion.
Yeah, I thought, well,
so now
we had a
would,
cadence of
Yeah, 'cause-
communication to the firms.
because
for-
then the firms will find out first before we actually officially tell them.
Well, I would recommend that we send them an email tomorrow anyway, so.
So what we usually do is we approve the finalists here, then we send out the notification, and the next meeting we approve the selected.
I have to get it signed off across the hall. Remember, we got the other one. So I have to write him a letter
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
saying This is the selection.
Right.
I just walk it over and he signs it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so tonight we're just approving the finalist.
Okay, so,
The select, per the executive session, the firm that we selected for approving it, and then Sharon's gonna go get the approval from Tony, and then our next meeting, we
will
can,
approve.
we'll approve it officially for the OSCGR.
for the grant record.
Yeah.
For the audit record.
Do you
Right.
need that prior to November 28th?
No.
Okay.
No. So I would
wanna make
suggest that the motion say that the committee approves the recommendation of the selection committee and will forward that on to the town manager for final approval.
Yep.
Got
What he
that?
said. A motion to approve the selection committee's selection for commissioning agent to be submitted to the town manager for approval.
Motion, so moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. No one abstaining. Okay, that's approved. Any other comments, updates, or announcements anyone wants to bring up? We got 20 minutes, I mean, fill it up if you want. Everyone's good, no date changes or anything? Okay, then, meeting's adjourned at 8:36.